Hi, my name is Caitlin LaCase, and I am the campaign manager for Protect Maine Elections. Thank you all for being here today. Over the last 12 months, our volunteers have been working around the clock and across the state, asking their neighbors and friends, family members and colleagues to join us in protecting our elections from foreign government interference and dark money special interest groups. This may last longer if we're cheering my Okay, but this next one, you should cheer for. Okay, so today I am excited to share that 80,749 Maine voters have signed on to our effort. This is significantly more signatures than required to place our initiative on the November 2023 ballot. Yes, we should be cheering. This is a momentous day. For far too long, the voices of Maine voters have been drowned out by foreign government interference and dark money special interest groups. While foreign governments are not permitted to contribute to candidate campaigns, the Federal Elections Commission recently ruled that it has no jurisdiction over state referendum campaigns, creating a dangerous loophole that allows corporations controlled by foreign governments to spend in referendum campaigns unless explicitly prohibited by state law. This campaign will give us the opportunity to make Maine one of a growing number of states and municipalities to ban foreign government spending in referendums. The initiative also affirms Maine's support for an anti-corruption amendment to the U.S. Constitution and directs our congressional delegation to advance such an amendment that would allow for reasonable campaign fundraising and spending limits. It also adds an accountability measure by charging the Maine Ethics Commission to report annually on the progress made by our delegation. We are nearing the end of a vicious election cycle, where there is projected to be a record-breaking $127 million spent here in Maine, mostly in the form of negative attack ads paid for by dark money special interest groups. It would be understandable to feel cynical about the state of our politics, but I am filled with hope, and you all should be too. Maine voters are joining together to strengthen our democracy, to take back our elections from dark money special interest groups and foreign governments who are trying to disrupt the democratic process. Voters from Caribou to Kittery, from Bethel to Lubec were eager to sign this petition because they want to ensure that our elections and governments are of, by, and for everyday people, not bought and paid for by wealthy special interests. This is the very best of democracy. Over 400 volunteers helped us get here. Folks like Jonathan, Diane, and Val collected signatures at fairs and festivals, farmers markets, and football games. Phil turned his dining room into a de facto campaign office while he and Laura kept a close eye on our petitions. Kathy, Betsy, Jim, and John have been driving petitions all around the state to be verified at town offices. And hundreds of more folks rolled up their sleeves to help get this done. Thank you all.
Hear, hear.
Maine voters are tired of being silenced. That is why we, all of us, are taking action now to protect our elections from foreign government interference and dark money special interest groups, and to return our democracy to the voters. And now, I am delighted to introduce our campaign chair, Republican Senator Rick Bennett. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Thank you, team. As I've campaigned this year across my district in rural western Maine, there is a consistent theme to the discontent and the anxiety that I've heard. Mainers see a rot at the heart of our democracy, a corruption of our magnificent American experiment brought about by the vast spending awash in our politics. The truth is, we don't know the origins of the billions of dollars of dark money flooding American elections, including the $127 million washing through Maine over the past few months that Caitlin referred to. But today, more than 80,000 Mainers are telling the moneyed interests and the political class that we are taking our government back. It is time to restore democracy to the people. It's time to take our republic back from the carnival of corruption it has become. It's a carnival where immense cash flows from special interest groups, foreign actors, and transnational corporations fund armies of lobbyists, political consultants, and media companies. A key part of our ballot initiative will close the loophole allowing foreign governments to spend unlimited amounts of money in Maine referendums. You know, this problem has been with us since the dawn of our nation. In his farewell address, President George Washington warned, and I quote, "Against the insidious wiles of foreign influence, the jealousy of a free people ought to be constantly awake, since history and experience prove that foreign influence is one of the most baneful foes of Republican government. This continues as a real and present danger. We've seen foreign governments spend millions of dollars in Maine referendum campaigns. Russian propagandists have spent millions to destabilize our nation and others. Chinese state enterprises are buying up American assets, including $1.8 billion of American farmland. Our basic necessities like food and energy are increasingly under the control of distant powers, not always benevolent to our purposes. That's why we introduced this ballot measure, and that's why more than 80,000 Mainers have enthusiastically signed our petitions over the past months. If this measure passes, Maine will join 7 other states that have already banned foreign nationals from participating in referendum campaigns. California, Colorado, Maryland, Nevada, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Washington ban foreign governments and foreign corporations, or both, from spending to influence referendum campaigns. And within the past 2 years, at least 6 other states have introduced legislation with provisions similar to do the same. And by the way, most every other country on this great planet, including our neighbor to the north, forbids foreign government interference in their elections. Like Caitlin, I too am filled with hope today. I believe that it is not too late. I know that the corruptive influence of money is a deep concern across the political spectrum. You see it here, where people all across this spectrum, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, we want to solve this problem. And I'm gratified to see the hundreds of volunteers who collected signatures, the tens of thousands of Mainers who put pen to paper. And I'm so thankful for our campaign leadership team, for our national partners like American Promise and its President Jeff Clements, and for the rare leaders like Congressman Jared Golden here today, who sets aside partisanship to find sensible solutions for the people he represents here in Maine. I know that together we can fix our broken politics and get government working for the people again. I am particularly delighted now to have worked and to introduce, but also to work across the aisle with our next speaker. And when she works tirelessly. Please say hello to Senator Nicole Graham.
Good morning, everyone. It is great to be here with you all in our state capitol to do the work of protecting our democratic system of government. Free and fair elections are the foundation of our country and our state, and we have the responsibility to ensure that they will be conducted of, by, and for the people. That's why this initiative is critical. We must ensure that Maine people's voices are front and center in our political discourse.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, foreign government spending and dark money special interest groups funded by the wealthy elite threaten our core institutions. These factions are spending an unprecedented amount of money to influence our elections, and it gets worse and worse by the year. This midterm election, as you've heard, will break another record with $127 million spent in Maine, and that is no longer the exception, but the rule. And I can assure you, voters I talk with have had enough. They're tired of seeing and hearing the ads from both sides, especially the negative ones. And they are smart enough to know that not everything they're being told can be true. They know how to seek information and make an informed decision without being inundated with millions of dollars of paid advertising. As an elected official and a candidate, I talk with a lot of folks from all across the political spectrum. I have yet to find one Mainer who supports unlimited spending on elections. Instead, they're asking me to do what I can do to put a stop to it. And that's why I am proud to be here with you all today, to be working with a bipartisan group of concerned citizens, and to be submitting over 80,000 signatures to ensure that Maine people's voices are heard on this issue in November of 2023. This ballot question prohibits foreign governments from spending money in our referendum elections, and it directs our congressional delegation to advance a constitutional amendment that would allow states to set reasonable campaign fundraising and spending with this. I'd say Mainers are ready for that. Voters in my district, and indeed around the state, are sick and tired of having their voices silenced by millions of dollars in dark money spending and political ads each election cycle. The current level of spending, which increases every year, is poisonous to our democracy. But this initiative is the antidote that Maine voters are asking for. So together, we're here today. We can and we will protect Maine elections. Thank you. Next, I am so thrilled to be able to welcome Anna Keller. They are the Executive Director of Maine Citizens for Clean Elections.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Grabowski. I'm so happy to be here today with all of you to acknowledge and celebrate the signatures that were collected by so many Mainers who are ready to see change and ready to see our democracy get back to working for everyday Mainers. Maine Citizens for Clean Elections is proud to be a part of the campaign that will strengthen our elections and bring Mainers together. These signatures represent the hard work of hundreds of Mainers who labored in the heat and in the cold and in the rain, who talked to their friends and neighbors, who talked to people that they don't agree with on much else politically, and who reached out and got the signatures. The signatures represent the belief of more than 80,000 Mainers that our elections belong to us. They represent our determination that democracy is about more than those who have the most money and who can represent special interests. Maine has a long tradition of common sense reforms that center voters in our elections. We are proud that more than 40 years ago, Maine became one of the first states that allowed same-day voter registration. And Maine voters defended that important right at the ballot in 2011. That means that no eligible voter is turned away at a polling place next Tuesday. Maine has led the way on ranked choice voting, on absentee voting, and on banning contributions from lobbyists to legislators. Maine was also the first state to pass a statewide election system and ensure that ordinary Mainers can run for office without being beholden to wealthy special interests. Clean elections have worked in Maine for over 20 years. And when the Supreme Court struck down part of the program after Citizens United, Mainers pushed back and once again collected the signatures and passed the strengthened clean elections program at the ballot. When the Supreme Court decided the Citizens United case, it opened the gates to a flood of secretive special interest money. And we have seen that come into Maine more and more every year. Citizens United tied the hands of legislators in Maine who wanted to put common sense restrictions in place. And Mainers, though, responded not only with our Clean Elections initiative, we also put out a clear call to our federal delegation to support a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United and return voters to the center of our elections. The Maine legislature passed a bipartisan resolution to that effect all the way back in 2012. Despite these efforts, however, special interest money continues to play an outsized role in our elections. That's why it is time once again to step forward with this citizen-powered referendum that centered our voices and protects Maine elections by banning contributions influenced by foreign governments. Not just that, this referendum will send a clear message directly from the voters to our congressional delegation that it is time to overturn Citizens United and that we expect our elected officials to work on our behalf for a constitutional amendment. No other state in the country has such a strong tradition of voters and ordinary citizens standing up for our democracy. We have won reforms that make our elected officials more accountable to us, and we will do so once again. Once again, Maine voters are bringing forward common sense solutions to the problems of money in our elections and providing an example for the nation that when we work together and we can come together across partisan lines, we can build a stronger democracy. I'm proud to be a leader today, and I'm proud to be supporting this effort with all of you. Introduce Jeff Clements, the president of American Promise.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much. Thank you for Protect Maine Elections. I'm Jeff Clements, president of American Promise. We're a national nonpartisan organization uniting Americans across the political spectrum to do what Maine has repeatedly sent a strong message to the country that we must do, and that's return power to the people of this country and the people of Maine by taking on the billions and billions of dollars that are flooding into our election system from the very few global corporations, now foreign governments, billionaires, some of the big unions and special interests. This is about free speech. It's about the free speech of Maine people. It's about the free speech of Americans. And when you have out of control spending in elections, who gets free speech? Not very many people. So that's why we need a constitutional amendment. And that's what this law that 80,000 Mainers have enabled the voters to consider will do. It will shut the door on foreign government spending and foreign government influenced global corporations spending to influence the outcome of Maine elections. And it will do something that will lead once again for Maine that no other state has yet done. And that is not only tell Congress to get moving on voting on a constitutional amendment to return power to the states and the people of Maine to enact effective regulations on the power of money in our political system, but to charge the State Ethics Commission with reporting on how well Congress is doing at working across the partisan spectrum to get that amendment back to the states for ratification.
Yes.
This is a big deal. Constitutional amendments are a big deal. We've done 27 of them. This will be the 28th. 9 of those reversed Supreme Court decisions that were disastrous. 9 constitutional amendments, actually 8. This will be number 9. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we're almost getting there. This will be the 9th. So thanks to the people of Maine and Americans around the country who joined the American Promise movement, this will be the 9th constitutional amendment that will correct Supreme Court disasters, such as women can't vote, such as slavery and discrimination based on race is just fine. All kinds of disastrous decisions that the Supreme Court decided American people had to step up to fix with amendments. So when the Supreme Court ruled in the Citizens United decision that we are not allowed, we do not have the right to have reasonable limits on how money is used in our political system, it was a disastrous mistake that goes to the heart of our democracy. So we need this amendment to get it done. As Anna said, 12 years ago, Maine kicked off this constitutional amendment drive with a bipartisan, multi-partisan, including independents, vote in the legislature calling for the For Our Freedom constitutional amendment, as we call it. 22 states have now taken that action. Maine is now upping the ante and saying, well, get your state ethics commission to help unite people in Congress to get it done, just like we're united back home. And that's going to happen thanks to these 80,000 conversations that these good people at Protect Maine Elections made possible. So we're really looking forward to working with all the folks here in Maine and around the country to get this done. And we're looking forward to working with the great members of Congress who are stepping up to recognize the peril of the country and the opportunity of the country and putting politics aside to get it done. And I'm now really proud to introduce one of the most bipartisan members of Congress, a sponsor of this constitutional amendment in Congress, Jared Golden. Thank you very much.
This is an exciting referendum right here. I'm so excited about this one that I can feel the blood coursing in my veins. I think this is honestly the best referendum that we have seen brought forward in the state of Maine for a number of reasons. First, let me say a couple of words of thanks to everyone here for their hard effort and volunteerism, the time that they put into collecting these signatures, but also talking to their neighbors, which is really at the heart of the referendum process, to try and improve upon our politics and make this a better place in a state where we can continue to be proud of our political system and the way that we do things. Thanks, first of all, to all of you back here behind me. I want to say thanks as well to Senator Rick Bennett for inviting me to be a part of this entity. He's actually one of the first to reach out to me and talk about the importance of doing this and to talk with me about working together across the aisle. And I'm just deeply appreciative of the relationship that we've been able to form over the last year or so on this, but on other important measures like open primary, something that we both worked on and supported together, which the legislature recently enacted into law. You know, what I think Rick and I believe and agree about is that at a time when our politics and the political discourse is getting constantly worse and more negative, and the partisanship and the battles that are going on between the national parties, what we actually believe is that the people of Maine should be able to see a political discourse and debate that creates stability, a return to stability in politics, where two guys like us can talk openly and honestly about what we agree about, where we agree on the issues, and then respectfully disagree with civility about the solutions that we see to common problems and how we might approach solving them differently, or how we could work together to solve them. Of Of course, the backdrop of all of that, what stands in the way of that type of politicking in this day and age? Big money in politics, big national money, big national political groups and entities that, I think as Rick said it, drown out the voice of the people of Maine, silence the voice of the American people. It's almost impossible to be heard out there. There's so much money pushing around, so much ugliness, spreading mistruths, and not only denying people the opportunity to hear from the people that are running to represent them, but drowning out their voices along with it. Through 3 election cycles now, I've repeatedly heard from many of my constituents saying, I watch all of these ads on television or in the mail, all of the mail. Talk about how they throw them in the fireplace, using fire starters, whatever it may be. They change the channel, they silence the TV when the commercials come on. But what they say is, it seems like our national political discourse is ignoring most of the things that I actually care about. I listen to these ad wars go on for an entire election season, and neither party is talking about the things that matter most important to me. And it leaves them feeling even more disconnected from their government, further withdrawn from our political system, which is the opposite of what it's supposed to be. In our democracy, people should feel deeply connected. They should feel like political leaders in the country are focused on what matters most to them, not just trying to win elections. This is what is at the heart of trying to get big money out of politics, ending Citizens United and trying to fight back. Ever since that decision went through, it's been a constantly escalating race to see who can raise more money, who can influence elections with the greatest spend. Correspondingly, there has been an ever deepening race to the bottom in regards to our discourse and the nature of our politics. We got to do something to change it. When it comes to this referendum, though, I would challenge anybody, please come make an argument. Tell us why. Tell me, tell the people standing behind me, tell you all out there, tell the people of Maine and the American people. Why should we allow foreign money to be spent to influence our elections? It's that simple. This has got to be one of the easiest choices out there in politics. Our founders from the very beginning, Rick and I talked about this together. One of their core concerns about the future of our democracy and a young Republican government was foreign influence. In any fashion whatsoever was a threat to our democracy and to our freedom. The laws, unfortunately, are riddled full of loopholes that allow this money to seep into our politics. You think that foreign money doesn't get into elections? You're wrong. Unfortunately, it does. The FBI knows that it does, and they're trying to do something about it. We've got a legal system right now that even allows foreign governments to spend money in referendums to influence big outcomes, could have a massive impact on your daily lives, and they could likely, be positioning themselves to reap great benefit. That's the only reason why they would want to spend money in our elections. They're not doing it out of the kindness, out of the goodness of their heart. So, simple question: does anyone want foreign money to influence American elections? Simple answer, I think. Big thanks to everyone that has made this happen. I look forward to working with everyone here today to continue to press forward to win this campaign and do what's right for the state of Maine. Thank you to this whole team.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you, everybody. And now, this is, I think everybody knows, this is just one step, and then a lot of things come into. But as the Congressman articulated, this should be a pretty easy answer. This should be a pretty easy answer. All right, now, some of these boxes are heavy, so I'm warning you now, but for those of you who are able and willing, we are going to carry the boxes to the Secretary of State's office and present them to her in the office as the will of the Maine voters to put this initiative on the ballot.